Evening, Mr. Gnatovsky. First, thank you for joining us. We are all horrified by the atrocities committed in Bucha, for example, but you as a Ukrainian, but also as a professor of international law, how did you feel looking at those images, those pictures with bodies in the street?
Well, I could have never imagined that I would ever see anything like this in my country, in Ukraine, which has always been such a peaceful place. And on top of this, in the suburbs of Kiev, like Bucha, which used to be an extremely nice, well-organized, prosperous, pleasant place. So, of course, my reaction was extremely emotional, and I can't see all these pictures without being emotional, but I understand that as a lawyer, I also have to be professional, and we need to be looking into the legal action to be followed.
So, what options exist for bringing those responsible to justice?
Well, here we are faced with mass atrocities, and these atrocities will be certainly qualified as crimes under international law. For sure, war crimes, crimes against humanity, and there is more and more feeling now among specialists that one can even think of, unfortunately, the crime of genocide, because this is combined not just with the military action, but also with a predetermined plan by the Russian authorities to, as they call it, to de-Ukrainize Ukraine, basically to finish the existence of Ukrainians as a national group. But at least, of course, war crimes and crimes against humanity, unfortunately, they are already obviously in place, in my personal view. And there are two avenues here. First is domestic criminal prosecution. And the bulk of the criminal cases will have to be handled at the domestic level. This is how international law also wants it to be. And of course, this supposes that there must be a thorough, independent and efficient investigation into all these atrocities along the lines of the criteria developed by the European Court of Human Rights. There's forensic examinations of each and every episode, there's post-mortem of each and every body. There is a lot of photo and video fixation of evidence. There's a lot of other important forensic things that need to be done. And then this goes to the Office of the Prosecutor General of Ukraine, and the criminal proceedings will be pursued with a view to identifying the perpetrators. Of course, when the Ukrainian criminal justice will not be able to reach the perpetrators because they are very high level abroad, for example in the Russian Federation, or when there is no possibility to prosecute them because they enjoy immunities under international law, such as the head of state and the foreign minister and the head of government and so on, then of course Ukraine will rely on the International Criminal Court, which also has jurisdiction over these crimes and which has already started a formal investigation.
It will be difficult for you to prove it's about war crime or genocide?
Proving atrocity crimes in courts of law is always a complicated thing. It is one thing to say that here we see atrocities committed by the armed forces of a particular state of the Russian Federation. That conclusion is not very difficult to make after the thorough examination of all the evidence at hand. What is difficult here is finding the concrete perpetrators, because war crimes, crimes against humanity, and even the crime of genocide, it is first and foremost a criminal law matter. This is a crime, and there is always people, concrete people, who must be charged with having committed this crime. So you see, we need to find all the links between those who gave the orders, those who executed the orders, all the, all the causal links, all the evidence that links the fact of the atrocity to the concrete persons. And it has never been easy in the world history. However, I'm sure that it will be possible because such precedents, of course, exist. And what is already good is that, as far as I understand, the Ukrainian authorities already possess the full list of persons who actually participated in this part of the armed conflict, in this episode of the armed conflict on the part of the Russian forces. So Ukrainian authorities know exactly which military units were there, who were the commanders, who were the officers, even who were the soldiers. The personal data is already available. So that should, of course, make things easier.
We talk about individual responsibility, but also state responsibility.
Of course, we talk about individual responsibility and state responsibility, and these are interrelated things, but they're not the same thing. As regards the state responsibility, well, first of all, it is obvious that all of these actions stem from the completely unlawful war of aggression that the Russian Federation is waging against Ukraine, and that the state, the Russian Federation as the state, has international obligations to prevent the war crimes committed by its armed forces, to prevent crimes against humanity, and very special and strong obligations to prevent the crime of genocide, which are already, by the way, are being examined by the International Court of Justice in The Hague, which is the interstate court, unlike the International Criminal Court.
Mr. Gnatovsky, why a special tribunal for Russian aggression would be the best solution?
Well, I think for this particular crime, for the crime of aggression, the existing international judicial architecture does not permit currently to hold responsible any official of the Russian Federation. And this is because Russia has not ratified the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court, has not given consent to its jurisdiction, like Ukraine did, and of course it didn't ratify the amendments to the Rome Statute, which actually specify the crime of aggression, give the definition and give the procedure how to move forward. The only remaining way under the existing institutional arrangement is to have a resolution by the United Nations Security Council referring this aggression to the International Criminal Court for determining individual criminal responsibility. And we all know that the Security Council of the United Nations is completely paralyzed when it comes to Russia's war against Ukraine, because Russia is a permanent member of the Security Council, and it enjoys and actually abuses the right of veto it has in the Security Council. So to hold the individuals responsible for the crime of aggression, one needs to create a special institutional arrangement. For example, a special tribunal could be a very good idea because it will be capable of prosecuting the highest officials of the Russian Federation, because aggression is a leadership crime. There will be no problem, no even potential issue with any immunity against prosecution, because there's no immunity against international prosecution, unlike immunity against domestic prosecution. And this could also send a very powerful signal to the world that such unprecedented after the Second World War large-scale aggression in Europe by one sovereign state against another state will not be tolerated. And this will complement the International Criminal Court, because currently it cannot do the job with the crime of aggression. So it needs support. And this can be done with relatively small investment in terms of money and organization. Because the crime of aggression, unlike the war crimes that we just discussed, is a rather straightforward crime. It is fairly easy to gather the evidence. It is fairly easy to see who is actually in the leadership of the country responsible for taking the decision to attack another sovereign state. That's why I think this would be a very strong signal for this situation, and also a very strong signal for the development of international law further, because one cannot tolerate situations like this in the future.
And Are you optimistic that Vladimir Putin could be surrendered to an international court?
This, of course, is something that one never knows, but it doesn't mean that no efforts should be made to pursue justice. It is important to push for justice. You know, when during the Second World War there was the agreement in 1942 already that the major Nazi war criminals will face a tribunal after the war. No one really knew whether they will win the war. No one really knew whether Hitler and his closest cronies will be captured and will be surrendered to such a tribunal. But we all know what happened. Therefore, I am very optimistic that when international justice is pursued by the international community, then the chances of something positive happening are very strong. In fact, one has to try, one has to do whatever they can in the framework of what international law offers. Creating such a tribunal is certainly an option under international law.
Mr. Gnatovsky, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.